Hello and welcome to another health talk. And this time around, I want to talk about detoxification. Um, there are two types of detoxification, and there's the one that you hear about a lot, such as eating specific types of food or drinking specific types of beverages in order to detoxify your body. And then there's the one you don't hear about as much because it doesn't really make a lot of money for people, and it's only useful in specific situations. Um, so here we go. Okay. Let's talk first of all about the less commonly heard reason or information about detoxification. Now, if you have consumed something that contains a dangerous or even toxic substance in it, you want to, as quickly as possible, neutralize whatever it was. It could even include living organisms, germs that might give you food poisoning. Okay. So as soon as you realize that you've consumed something that's making you ill, you could use something to detoxify your digestive system of whatever it is, either to kill the germs or to remove the toxic substances from your digestive system. Now, the longer you wait from the time you consume that dangerous substance until the time that you realize you've got it in you, the less effective remedies will be. One of the most common remedies that is used in the animal kingdom quite often is clay. And in fact, humans also have a history of using clay to detoxify. For example, in South America, when the Europeans arrived there and discovered that South Americans had potatoes, which is where they came from, they discovered that these people would they would dry out and grind up clay, and they would eat this clay with the potatoes. Why? Because potatoes were naturally toxic. They had poison in them that prevented most animals from consuming them. Europeans took those, they crossbred them until there was no poison in them, making them taste quite different. If you go to South America and you ask them about American potatoes or European potatoes, they're going to say, oh, those are boring, because they don't really have much flavor, whereas the natural ones do. But you have to eat something to neutralize or absorb the poison. So that's one option. But of course, you need to make sure it's food grade clay, not regular clay. You don't want to go to the pottery store and buy some clay and start eating it because you don't know if it's safe, right? It could have something growing in it that would be very unfortunate for you to consume and make you sicker than you already are. Another thing is activated charcoal. Now, there are some companies that sell activated charcoal pills for the purpose of neutralizing things like toxic substances and food poisoning and stuff like that. And they do have some effect. They can help reduce the impact of it, depending on what it is, whether it's a substance that you consumed or is being produced by germs that can be absorbed by charcoal. Unfortunately, charcoal does not have, or activated carbon, does not have the ability to absorb everything. So, like, for example, activated carbon absolutely cannot absorb heavy metals. So if you have heavy metal poisoning, don't bother with that. Don't bother with clay. You could try eating banana peels. Banana peels have been shown to have some ability to absorb some degree of heavy metals, but probably best off going to the doctor and getting professional help to get that lead or excess copper or gold or silver or whatever mercury out of your system in a way that's more effective. Now, again, the longer you wait between the time you ingest that stuff and the time that you realize you've ingested something dangerous, the greater the impact of that toxic substance on you. and the greater your danger is going to be. So if you start feeling ill, you need to go to the doctor. I mean, if you watch Chubby Emu's channel on YouTube, he talks about a lot of situations where people have consumed something and they waited too long and it had permanent or fatal consequences because they didn't immediately more rapidly go to see a doctor. In some cases, you can, aside from consuming activated carbon or certain other substances that are over the counter, they used to recommend Ipecac syrup for poisoning. I don't know if they still recommend it. I heard that they may not recommend that anymore, but there are things that you can do to try and fight it. But you would need to call your doctor or nurse a hotline or something like that and ask, what I think I've consumed something toxic. What can I consume to help neutralize it? But the thing that I do when I know I have food poisoning and I recognize the symptoms, because number one, I'll feel a tightness in my stomach, and in the stomach area. I don't mean my entire stomach. I mean in the area where the actual organ of the stomach is. I'll feel a tightness, and then I'll start burping, and the burping will be accompanied by a sulfuric smell, rotten eggs, and I will start to feel some pain, and I'll start to become lethargic and weak, and I'll want to sleep a lot. If I catch it quickly enough, I can almost entirely eliminate it by vomiting. Now, I don't recommend this for everybody. The reason is if you have a susceptibility for whatever reason to easily damaging your stomach and esophagus or esophagus through vomiting repeatedly, you might end up doing worse damage than if you'd gone to the ER and had your stomach pumped. Yes, vomiting is cheaper, but please be aware of whether your body can tolerate it. So what I do is, as soon as I realize I've got the symptoms, I will drink a large container of water, as much as I can tolerate, and then I'll vomit up everything that I can get out of my stomach. I'll refill and vomit again, and I will continue to refill until the water is coming out clear. Nothing's coming out with it. Now, if I have done that in a reasonable amount of time, very little of the toxic substance will end up in my intestines, and I will feel better maybe in a day or two. I might still have some diarrhea, but the impact will be minimal. If I don't do this at all, I will be miserable for 3 to 4 days. I'll have no appetite. I'll have no energy. I will crawl to the bathroom because I won't be able to walk or anything else. And I will sleep all day long. And that's dangerous because you can actually end up dying from that. But that's the lesser known version of detoxification that is actually real, but is not highly promoted by scammers because it's not profitable for them. You can buy activated carbon cheaply. Therefore, a scammer who's going to sell you activated carbon isn't going to be able to make a huge profit unless they somehow brand it or they manage to convince you it's something else, or they say, oh, it's got this special component in it that's only available in our product and you got to get it now, and if you buy it right now, we'll give you an extra portion of it for free, and all that kind of crap. Scam. Okay. Now, the other kind of detoxification is where you usually hear that you're going to go on this specific diet, and this diet is going to detoxify your body, and you're going to end up experiencing lots of diarrhea, and you may even experience vomiting. Now, an extreme example, and I don't think that they actually claim this is useful for detoxification, but if somebody were to say, consume ayahuasca, which is a South American hallucinogenic compound that's from a natural source. you will experience extreme vomiting and diarrhea, and it will be a very weird experience. If you're being guided by an expert, you may have a lot of hallucinations that may be good or bad. I don't know a lot about it. I've just watched some videos about it. But in the real world, what I have seen is that, I don't mean real world, I mean in the real situations that I've seen are where somebody will say, oh, the South Beach diet, for example, will detoxify you, or you consume this and it's going to detoxify you. And they're not actually telling you to consume something that has the ability to detoxify. What they could be doing is taking you from a low fiber diet, your normal diet may be low fiber, and that's bad, to a high fiber diet. And that will definitely induce lots of diarrhea. Why? Because you have some bacteria in your intestines that digest that fiber, the soluble, digestible part of the fiber that goes through you. But when you go from low to high very suddenly, the population of bacteria in your intestines isn't sufficient to digest all of it. So the balance of it will be either digested in a different way or not digested, resulting in a lot of gas, bloating, and diarrhea. And the same thing can happen if you are lactose intolerant and you consume lactose anyways. You'll have gas and bloating if it's a small amount and you're not, depending on how lactose intolerant you are. But if it's a large amount, you may also have the diarrhea. And if you are allergic to lactose, you will have immediate reactions. For somebody like me who's just lactose intolerant, it generally takes 2, maybe 3 days. My system is a bit slow before I will, so to speak, realize the consequences of the lactose I did or did not know that I was consuming. And so I generally just avoid lactose. Excuse me. And, but I'm digressing. The point here is that if you consume a substance like fiber, where you're going from an incidence of low volume of that substance to high volume, it's going to result in diarrhea. It has nothing to do with detoxification. It's just a visual symptom or a physical symptom, if you will, that you experience, and then people sell that as being detoxification when it's not actually. Detoxification almost always has to do with either what I talked about before, where you're consuming an active substance that has the ability to absorb chemicals and compounds, or you are no longer consuming something. Okay, so like if you've spent the last several years taking your food to work in a plastic container, and you heat up the food in a plastic container or in a styrofoam container or anything that's got any kind of man-made plasticky rubbery crap on it, you are activating that compound in such a way that it releases some of its molecules or elements into your food, and therefore you're getting, like BPA, for example, you're getting that into your body, and it builds up in your body. And in tests that were performed on poor people and from regular people and then the super rich, what they noticed is that the less the people who didn't have a lot of money tended to have a high volume of these plastic chemicals and compounds in them. And the rich people had a different category, like more mercury, for example, maybe. It just depended. But they would not have much in the way of plastic crap in them, but they'd have other stuff in them because of their expensive diet containing contaminants that are not good for us. So if after years of heating up your food in plastic containers, you roast, oh my gosh, you find out what I just talked about the fact that those chemicals can leach into your beverage, can leach into your food. If you leave like a water bottle sitting out in the sunlight, that heat from the sun will actually help promote this transfer of chemicals from the plastic container you've got your beverage in into your beverage. So if you become conscious of this and you decide, you know what, I got to stop this, this is not good for me, and you stop consuming it, you will be, through a natural process of of avoiding the source, you will eventually detoxify your body of those plastic chemicals, except for the ones that your body cannot expel, such as things like that have the I guess you could say a resistance to being expelled, such as like heavy metals. Not that I'm saying plastic has heavy metals in it, but that's the idea. So that's the other real form of detoxification. Detoxification by changing your diet is not real detoxification. Now, again, if you are a sugar junkie, cutting out sugar from your diet or drastically reducing it, that's a form of detoxification because you're removing something from your diet. But again, adding something to your diet or increasing something dramatically from a level that the bacteria in your gut can handle to a level that they can't handle because there's too much for them to digest will result in false detoxification symptoms. All right. So now you understand about detoxification, the different kinds of detoxification, and which one is not real. So if somebody's promoting a diet that says you're going to detoxify your body by adding lots and lots of this stuff, and they may conceal that you may not realize there's lots of fiber in it or lots of lactose or something like that. But if you pay attention and you realize, oh, I'm going from here to here in something, then you'll be able to say, aha, I have diarrhea or gas or bloating or whatever it is, not because I'm being detoxified, but because they tricked me into believing a lie and spent a lot of money on it in the process. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Thanks so much for watching and hope you have a great day.